Right, yes, hello everybody, 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗓 here from FourFourTwo, and if you're wondering why this video is slightly late, that's because while we don't know if football is coming home just yet, I literally have right now today. Our good friends at 𝗘𝗫𝗴𝗍 here, yes, they very kindly invited us over to the England game in 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗫𝗧𝗜, and I've only just got back, which means I've had the whole time to think about the thing, and we'll just get into it now. But I'll not bore you with all the details of the trip right now, but suffice it to say, oh my god, that's the first time I've drank water in about 3 days. Right, it's certainly far too hot under these lights to wear this thing. So England, very, very good in the first half. Got the goal, dominated Serbia, and then not very good in the second half, and people are wondering why that is. Well, it's easy to look at a couple of things in this system. Trent Alexander-Arnold blew hot and cold. Phil Foden struggled to make an impact. Jude Bellingham visibly tired as the game went on, and thus his impact was slightly reduced. But it actually wasn't really any of this. Serbia made a pretty big change, and England, I don't want to say couldn't deal with it, but certainly weren't in any rush to deal with it. So just to show you, first of all, why it worked so well in that first half, because obviously we've talked a lot about this England system and about how they're going to be this aggressive, high-pressing team that look to box teams into their own half, steal it in the final third here, and then create chances from there. But Serbia, oh wait, can I do that joke? I don't know. Can I say Serbia were about as interested as playing out from the back as I don't think I should say that. We're about as interested as playing out from the back as Rio Ferdinand is in a cohesive sentence. That'll do. Like, genuinely, if you don't believe me on that, this is the pass map of the Serbian goalkeeper. Forgive me, I forget his name, from the entire match. It is just all long. It is all straight into England's half. Whether this is something they do or something they did specifically here, I don't know. Forgive me, I haven't watched that much Serbia in the last 12 months, but England were never going to get the opportunity, really, to win it back here, so there was no point in trying. So instead, they tweaked the system, and they tweaked it in a really, really interesting way. I don't know if this came across on television, but it genuinely shocked me to see it in the stands. Rather than sort of the double pivot 2-3-1 that we were expecting, they were just quite happy to let Declan Rice be the sole number 6 on his own, and Alexander-Arnold played further forward. Now, obviously, this theoretically leaves Rice more exposed, but what they were using it to do was deal with the Serbian long ball threat. Basically, just imagine everybody's all bunched up in the middle here rather than spread over the pitch. Every single time Serbia looked to go long from the back, be that the goalkeeper or any of the defenders, Declan Rice just dropped right between Stones and Gay. They sort of compacted themselves a lot closer to the Serbian front three, basically going man for man there, and then took it in turns to challenge for the ball while the other two swept round behind. Like, Rice was basically playing as a centre-back when Serbia had the ball. In fact, if we just look at specifically the unsuccessful passes he made, the ones England gobbled up, they're all in this central area where Gay, Stones and Rice were, and that's because they had the right number of players. They adapted to what Serbia were going to do really well. But way more interesting than what they were doing with this shape off the ball was what it was allowing them to do on the ball. And the attacking shape they were forming was not what anybody was expecting. So I've got no idea if this came across on telly, and I certainly can't find any good bits of it with everybody in it at the same time. But thankfully, I was there, so I've taken this photo. Sorry, UEFA. And this, England building up for the majority of the first half in what you can only describe as like a 3-diamond 3. So you can see here the sort of a back 3 being formed. That's Gay, Stones and Kyle Walker tucking in, giving them this nice little diamond with Declan Rice, which is what they were using for their build-up. They were playing around Serbia's press quite nicely with that. And from there, Kieran Trippier was going all the way up to the wide left position, pretty much in the same line as Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka. And then from there, you had Trent Alexander-Arnold moving out to the right in sort of the half space that Saka left, which is where everybody agrees he is at his best. You had Bellingham and Rice sort of as the two in the middle, and then Foden, again, in the same half space on the other side, outside Trippier. Inside Trippier. Well, that sounds gross. And this theoretically solves most of England's problems with this selection, because you've got Trippier holding the width all the way over on this side, which is not his game at all, but it does drag the defender out, allows Foden to play in the channel where he's much better, and you've got Saka and Alexander-Arnold sort of rotating between who's on the byline and who comes inside, because they can both play that really well. It was allowing Alexander-Arnold to get into that quote-unquote Beckham area. And you saw it beautifully for the goal. Like, I know it's just a Bellingham thing and he's getting all the credit for it, but actually, it's one of the best-looking team goals I think I've ever seen England score. Like, it's near perfect running from several different players to create that opportunity. And it's sort of born out of this mad system they were doing. So if we look at Kyle Walker's position in the build-up, obviously he's way further forward on that right-hand side, but he's travelled all the way from this sort of right-sided back three position. You can see the remnants of the diamond there. Then, and this bit is obviously quite subtle, you can see Trent Alexander-Arnold's coming out of that area over to the right-hand side, pulling this midfielder with him, creating this nice big gap between the two lines that England want to have people in, specifically Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham. But if we just look all the way down here, who is the left-sided attacker? It's not Phil Foden, it's not Jude Bellingham, it's Kieran Trippier. He's come all the way forward. He's on the exact same line as Harry Kane as England get into the final third here. You would think for all the world that's the position he was playing. Now the pass from Walker is fantastic. They get Saka in behind. But from here, it's pretty much a textbook example of how you use a man advantage to create space in the box and score a goal. So first off, two key moments. This defender has a look over his shoulder, sees Kieran Trippier, knows he can't overcommit. He's got to watch that back post run. Second key bit, this defender here has a look over his shoulder, sees Phil Foden, knows he's got to match that run into the box. So these two are now locked off. Now that leaves one defender with Harry Kane. But if we just look at the point the cross is coming in, there's no space for anybody to get in. Serbia are well set here. They've got the runs blocked off. They know exactly where they need to be. There's not an opportunity. Now, if you're Phil Foden, you are not going to score a goal from a cross in this position. But that is not why he's there. He's making sure he takes this man as far away from the front post as possible, leaving a bit of room. And if you're Harry Kane, you probably don't want to go near post with this necessarily. You probably want the cross to come over the defender so you can get the header back across the goalkeeper. But again, he makes that run near post into the space that Foden has freed up for him. And if we just jump forward a few fractions of a second, you can see now that because this defender can't overcommit because he knows Trippier is there, Kane's run is now made just a couple of yards right outside the 6-yard box, and that's exactly where Jude Bellingham is going. By the time Muggins here realises precisely what's happened, it is too late. He's moved into the space and he's finished that chance off. It's honestly about as picture perfect an example of how to execute that system as you could possibly hope for. Oh, so that's great then, Adam. England were just fantastic, were they? They had this really clever system and Serbia couldn't live with it. They must have gone on and won 4-0 then, eh, dickhead? Well, obviously no, it's finished 1-0. Serbia wrestled some control back from England, and the way they did that was just by making one substitution. Goodell, and apologise to any Serbians watching if that's absolutely mangled, but he comes off with an injury and they replace him with 𝗘𝗫𝗓, who's a very different player. One is sort of a destroyer, was looking to break up England's play, and the other really likes being on the ball. Now, this didn't change Serbia's system too much. They were still looking to go along with it out from the back. They weren't looking to sort of try and build through England, but because he was there and they were less reliant on one player to do a lot of the chasing round, they just simply went for a man-for-man system while England were building up. They didn't worry about the space anymore. They just knew where England were going to be and they locked onto them. Now, obviously, this was going to leave England a little bit more exposed. You've got your left-back all the way up here. You've got one of your centre midfielders all the way out there. You've got your sort of 4 players building up in a really sort of compact area. It's very easy to press that, so sensibly, they sort of went back to their normal sort of shape. And I think it was here that the nation as a whole started to notice that Phil Foden was really struggling to get in the game, and thus, England were having one of their traditional summer problems. Because when you are forced to abandon that 3-4-3 because you're not entirely confident building out with it and you just go to this, you then get to see why they were doing it in the first place. Because this, with Bellingham and Foden in it, has problems. One of the easiest ways to illustrate this for you, right, is that this is Phil Foden's heat map from that game. I'm just going to give you a second. You can take all that in, have a look at it. Where's all the bits? Where's the red? Where's the yellow? Right, commit that to memory. Now this is Jude Bellingham's heat map. And what is no doubt immediately apparent to you is that they are virtually identical. Now, obviously, that's because you've got one player who's starting as the 10 who likes to drift out into that left half space to get on the ball. That's Bellingham's game. We love that about him. And the other is you've got a player stuck out on the left wing who wants to be coming in to the number 10 role. So it all kind of averages out as largely the same thing. And not to sound like someone coaching a bunch of 6-year-olds here, even though this is something you would coach to a bunch of 6-year-olds, the problem with that is that when one of them gets on the ball, it means the other player wants to be in that space. So instead of making the sort of run that could open up a defence, instead of stretching the opposition, they just kind of show for the ball. They want it. And that, in the final third of the pitch at the European Championships, doth butter no parsnips. If either Foden or Bellingham are getting on the ball here, they don't want to make a 2-yard pass to somebody who's going to do something else with it. They want to make an incisive pass. They want to make a killer ball. They want to open up the defence. And if someone's trying to play the same position as you, they're not going to give you that option. Like, this is Phil Foden's pass map from the match. He obviously gets on the ball loads, but you can just sort of see when we get to the final third, when we get in and around the box, so many of these are very short, backwards, sideways passes. He's just moving the ball around. So rarely is he able to find the overlapping run from the fullback, because Kieran Trippier won't be doing that. He can't find Bellingham getting into the box because he's not going to do that. He wants to be in that area getting on the ball. So it's kind of like you're playing with 10 if two of you are doing the same thing. And this was pretty much the story of the second half. Serbia looked way more comfortable on the ball because they brought on a player who was way more comfortable on the ball. And England looked short of ideas because they'd moved to a system where it was far harder to have ideas. And obviously the other problem with this system, which everybody identified in the build-up, was Kieran Trippier. Like, you need someone with a natural left foot on that side. Otherwise, all your passes are going to be sideways, they're going to be backwards, they're going to be in field, and you're never going to get round your opponent. And if we look at Kieran Trippier's pass map, well, there it is. There's a man with no left foot playing on the left side every time he gets in this area, which is such a dangerous position to be getting your fullback into. The ball comes back inside, it's short, it's a one sort of trick right-footed pass, usually back to Phil Foden. There were so many times when a left-footed player would have gone around the outside, given them something else to think about, but that's just, give him his due, not his game. And I will say just at this point, if it sounds like I'm down on this performance, like, I'm absolutely not. If Harry Kane doesn't have that wonder save applied to him in the second half, well, it's that a team came out with a much better system, got a goal through it, and then when the tide started to turn, just sat back, soaked up the pressure, were professional, popped it around, and found a goal in the spaces the opposition left open for them. But bar for the width of a crossbar, that didn't happen. I thought this was fine overall, just there were alarming elements. And there's a load of other talking points that I've seen people sort of getting into today. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold was actually pretty good. He was cutting out passing lanes. He was actually defending pretty well, which I know is not supposed to be his thing. And you could see the Serbians doing that, that comedy like neck pull thing every time he got on the ball. Mark Gay, I thought, looked like he'd been playing centre-back for England for about 15 years, which, given his was the inexperience factor that we were all worried about, was incredibly relieving. I've got no concerns about him there. And Jordan Pickford, he did his screaming and shouting and cursing out the world every time he's forced to play in goal, even though he's a goalkeeper bit. And as for Harry Kane, yes, he was doing a very good impression of Ronaldo during his second spell at Manchester United, but there were large parts of that game when England just needed to move up to the pitch, and I thought his hold-up play was excellent. Other games will be different to this, and you'll see a different Harry Kane as a result. No cause for concern there. IMO. But yeah, that's kind of it, really. Like, it's the first game in a tournament. You're always going to want to grow into it rather than just like being the finished article on day one and everybody figuring you out by the knockout stages. I thought it was a professional performance from England, if not an overly exciting one. I think they'll be absolutely fine in the rest of the group. And as Belgium have just proved, like all of a few minutes ago on the telly behind me, nothing is guaranteed in your first game or indeed any game. So that's it. 3 points. Job done. Move on. But yeah, speaking of job done, I do now desperately need to go and have some rehydration salts. So we're going to leave it there for today. If you watched the England game, or even if you didn't and you just like to talk on the internet, let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Do you think that was a good performance? Do you think that was a concerning performance? Or thoughts or feelings? Anything going on in your little head? We would like to hear it. In the meantime, though, yes, hello, welcome to our brand new, exciting Euro studio. Maybe should have said that at the start of the video. Possibly a little bit weird now. We are going to spruce it up and do some little things, and I will deal with the fact that this is the most unflattering lighting I have ever stood in front of. So if you don't want to miss all that, then please do subscribe to us here at FourFourTwo. We'll be covering the Euros to within an inch of its life, and you don't like missing stuff because nobody does. So if you hit that, then you won't. Elsewhere, though, if reading is more your thing, I have here the latest issue of the FourFourTwo magazine, the best football magazine in the world, in both my opinion and that of my mother. So do get that at all good retailers and do the crap ones as well. It's packed more full of European Championship stuff than, let's see, my WhatsApp over the next 5 weeks. That joke was terrible, but the magazine isn't. In the meantime, though, as ever, thank you very much for watching. Get me on all the socials at Adam Clery, CLERY. The 442 ones are in the corner of the video. And until next we meet, which, if I've got time, maybe talking about the France game, then I will see you soon. Farewell.